إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to MTA International Africa. We are coming to you from Wahab Adam Studios in Ghana. This is your favorite program, Islam and Science, and today we are looking at a very interesting topic. It is about the creation of a human being in the womb of a woman. How does the fetus develop? And to help me do the discussion today is Dr. Osman Kobina Ajapon, a pediatrician at Kolebu Teaching Hospital. Doctor, you are welcome.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And sitting next to him is Murabi Abdul Ghafur Said, a missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim mission here in Ghana. Today's program is about the development of a fetus, which is one of the grand predictions that Islam has made before science. How human beings grew in the womb of our mothers before we came out into this world could never have been found in any religious text except the Holy Quran. Before we go into how Islam does that, let me first ask Dr. Sahib. Doctor, does the creation of man at all go through any process?
Yes, the creation of man goes through a very well-defined process. As we know now from science, and science keeps on developing, and we keep on discovering new things. But as we know, we have the sperm from the father and the eggs or ova from the mother, which comes together and forms a fertilized, so the egg gets fertilized, then it's implanted in the womb of the mother. This implantation goes through a process. The cell begins to divide and then eventually gets bigger, and all the organs and the body parts of the human being is formed through these two small tiny cells that come together. And with time, they divide further into many parts, then becomes a whole human being over a period of time, which then comes out as a baby.
Wow, that is interesting. A sperm and an ovary combining, and it goes through, will you call it chemical reaction? In the laboratory, when you put two chemicals together, they react, and you see a product coming out. Yeah. How is this reaction taking place in the womb of a woman?
Yes, so that is one of the wonders, that it's not a chemical reaction, but it's a fusion. The two cells come together, then forms one cell, then that cell keeps on dividing and forming all the body parts that we human beings have.
I see. Rabbi, do we know this from Islam?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي.
Amen.
As you rightly mentioned in your introduction, we all know man was created by Allah. So the knowledge that man has must be from his creator. So science might be able to give a lot of explanations with experiments that can best fit the general understanding of mankind. But what the Holy Quran says might be even be more deeper than what science would have revealed to us, because the Holy Quran is far-fetched older than science, 1,000 years or more. So the Holy Quran has already spoken about the development of a fetus in the womb earlier, before science come to talk about that. If you check Surah Al-Mu'minun, you can see how beautiful Allah has described the stages of the creation of man. Let me take the Arabic reading, and then for the sake of our viewers, I will read the English for everybody to understand what we are talking about. Allah says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن ولقد خلقنا الإنسان من سلالة من طين ثم جعلناه نطفة في قرار مكين ثم خلقنا النطفة علقة فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام اللحمة ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين. The translation of these verses goes as follows. Verily, we created man from an extract of clay. Then we placed him as a drop of sperm in a safe depository. Then we fashioned the sperm into a cloth and fashioned the cloth into a shapeless lump. Then we fashioned the bones out of this shapeless lump. Then we clothed the bones with flesh. Then we develop it into another creation. So, blessed be Allah, the best of creators. That develop into another creation is what Dr. Saab has just talked about, that yes. You come out as a baby.
As a baby, yes.
You see how beautiful the Quran has spoken about it. From sperm, you go to clot of blood, then fashion into a shapeless lamb. From there, bones are there. Then the bones are also clothed with flesh. Then it come out as something. You see, these things are only found in this Holy Scripture. Yes. And it is detailed and does not need any commentary for someone to get to know that this is it.
Yeah.
But what people should always understand is that Islam is not in loggerheads with science,
okay.
Or science is in loggerheads with Islam. No. Science rather drive its research mainly from the Quran. Whether you refer to it or you don't refer to it, but you have to revert back to the answer that the Quran is always talking about.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Dr. Saib, what the missionary just said, is there any support to it in science?
Yes, definitely. Because from what he just read, initially is the sperm, which is a fluid that is comes together. Then it forms into a lump. And actually we know from science that this lump gets implanted into the womb of the mother. And then what we call the placenta forms for it.
Okay.
Then from the placenta, the baby gets its nourishment. When, in the unfortunate situation where the mother loses the baby, that is if there's a miscarriage, what you see actually is a lump of blood, just like the Quran has described. So we know this lump of blood is all that develops into the human being. Science has shown that there are 3 layers that comes in the development of human being. There is the what we call the inner layer or the endoderm. Then there is the middle layer, the mesoderm. Then there is the outer layer, which is the ectoderm. Okay. So all this.
And all this is happening within the womb.
Within the womb.
You have 3 layers.
Here we have 3 layers. All this is happening within the womb. And eventually, the whole parts of the human being, be it the brain, be it the heart, the liver, everything develops from these 3 layers gradually to form the human being. Yes.
Does the different parts come from the different layers?
Yes, the different parts come from the layers. So, for instance, the inner layer, the endoderm, we know our intestines comes from the endoderm. Then the mesoderm, we know our bones, the flesh, and other things comes from the mesoderm. Then the ectoderm, which is the outer layer, is mainly the skin and the structures that are under the skin, the hair and other things. That is what forms from the ectoderm.
That is really interesting to me. Murabi Saib, you see that you have a liquid sperm combining with a very soft ovary, and yet you grow up to have these hard bones within you. Where did they come from? Do we have any insight from the Holy Quran or from Islam?
You see, yet again, I have to go back to the Quran, which is always there to save situations and also give answers to problems. And what Allah knows, as He said in the very opening of Surah Al-Baqarah, He is Al-Mulghaybi wa Shahada.
Yeah.
he only reveals to us what we are capable of understanding. You see, in those days of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu when he was speaking to his people about that there will be people that will invent aeroplane, modern means of transport. What was the name they called him? That a madman.
Yes.
Because they could not comprehend that. You see, in as much as we are able to tell some things referred from the Holy Quran and explain, that is where our knowledge reach. But as time goes on, a human being develops, there will be more findings from the Holy Quran, which looks very new. That is why they say the Quran is for today, it's for yesterday, it's for tomorrow.
Yes.
So that is, God has already made it clear to us that He bring the bones.
Yeah.
Just from that sperm to the clot of blood, it comes with then he finishes it with flesh. For Islam and scholars, we will not be able to tell you where the bones are coming from.
Okay.
Because the knowledge God has given to us, we know the bones are from Him.
Yeah.
And He has kept in a process, and that process must happen for these things to take places. If those processes doesn't happen, then you expect that something cannot come out of it. Not to talk of the other stages that will make out the baby. So for Islam, we follow what Allah has just stated categorically in the Holy Quran.
Yeah.
And we believe that no findings can supersede this unless it is coming to throw more light and buttress what Allah has already kept in place for the knowledge of mankind.
That is true. Which means that the process that has been laid out is given in the Quran, that you move from a sperm to a lamb, the bones come in, and then the bones are clothed with the flesh.
Yes.
It means that the formation of bone is at a certain stage of development.
Of the process of the birth.
Of development.
Yes.
Dr. Saib, is this...
Yes, that is exactly what we have known so far. We know, certainly, science have come to know that all these things are in process. There are specific times where all these things are formed. We know for sure that the bone doesn't come right away, okay? So it moves from soft tissues, then all these parts develop gradually, including the bone. The bone is formed at some point. The mesoderm of the layers that I've talked about forms the bone. Then through other chemicals like calcium, they get hardened up. Then the flesh of the human being also goes around the bone. So when you look at pictures of fetuses that are shown through ultrasound scans, you could see that initially the fetus is shapeless. Like it doesn't have any shape. You don't see
just
the
like
head.
the Holy Quran said.
Exactly. You don't see the head.
Lamp.
You don't see the tail. You don't see the hair. You don't see the limb. But with time, you see that all this, the limb, the head, and everything becomes clear up to the extent that by 6 months of conception, now you can see a whole human being already formed in the womb. So this really goes to collaborate with what the Quran has said, which is amazing because about 1,400 years ago when the Quran was revealed, man had no idea of how the human being comes about. But now through development and invention of things like the ultrasound, we can clearly see what really happens from week to week, what happens, and it really collaborates with what the Quran has mentioned.
That's really interesting.
Even to top up with what Dr. Saab said, in another place of the Holy Quran, God said He has created man in the womb in different 3 stages. So I don't think that science will also go out. If you look at it, 9 months of pregnancy, if you divide it into 3, it's equal to 3 months, 3 months.
Yes.
So these 3 stages, at each stage, there is something, there is development. That is what Allah says. Because that's why He said He has made the Quran for people who have understanding. So the understanding that the scientists will dig in to get into that first stage, what happens there, it is what Dr. Saab is telling us. Because God has already said in the womb, there are 3 stages before the birth.
Okay.
So the first stage will describe whatever that, whether it's the blood, it's the days, it's the bones, is over there.
And this is already in the Holy Quran?
It's already in the Holy Quran. It's already in 6 stages.
Okay.
So already God has given the foundation. So it's up to us now to build our knowledge upon the foundation and get to know the verities that are hidden into this Holy Quran.
Okay, Dr. Sir, before we take some views from the public on this topic, are these 3 stages equally divided along the 9 months?
So it's so interesting that people who specialize in pregnancy or obstetricians have divided the pregnancy period into 3. They call it the first trimester, the second trimester, and the third trimester. And this division wasn't made arbitrary because they know that in the first trimester, things that happen there are very unique and different from what happens in the second trimester and what happens also in the third trimester. So it's this goes perfectly with what Murabi has just said. Exactly. The Quran has already mentioned that man is created in 3 stages.
Okay.
So it just goes to collaborate what we know and do in medicine now.
Okay, that's interesting. Let's see what the public has on this topic.
Yes, I believe that creation of man goes through a lot of processes. Even if you want to go back to the Bible, Genesis, when God created man, he recorded that God used dust to create man. And after the creation, he breathed through the nostril of the man before he became a living being. Even when he was about to create woman, he caused the man to fall into deep sleep, and he took a rib of the man to create the woman. And through that, he went through a process. And that's why when he created the woman and gave it to the man, a head to the man, he said they should procreate or multiply and fill the earth. And that one is through sexual intercourse. Because in the Bible, it recorded that Adam knew his wife and she conceived and gave birth to their first son. Get that? So I believe that, and it's still there now. Before a woman can give birth, she needs to have an intercourse with a man. And I want you to know today that children are not just coming because man met woman. That's why they are able to give birth. Children are a blessing from God. And if God do not bless you with that kind of blessing, you see that some people will marry and take long time, they can't give birth. Some, it will even take the whole of their lives on this earth. They can't give birth. That shows that man cannot do anything to get a child unless God give that child to you. And that process, the woman has to conceive, and the baby has to be in the womb of the woman for 9 good months. Some it's even 11 months, some to 7 months, some to 13, and some 15 months before you can give birth. Meaning the child has to go through certain processes before the child can come into this world and be able to survive. So before you can, a man will be produced onto this earth, has to go through certain processes before it can come about that. So I believe in that.
Before probably we are giving birth to, of course, certain processes must take place. There must be a meeting between 2 opposite sex. That can only result in human creation or the process of childbirth. So I think that is very, very important concerning the fact that we have to understand that, yes, indeed, there are certain processes involved. I get that before a child is given birth or any other creation is brought into the world. We are talking about humans creation. Of course, even the Quran tells us how after the creation of Adam through the dust, how humans afterwards are produced through the blood clot and all that as a result of sexual intercourse between the man and then the woman.
Yes, I also believe that human being pass through normal process. Okay, first is when you are pregnant, the baby must grow. Okay, through some stages. Okay, maybe first semester, second semester, stuff like that.
Interesting views from the streets of Accra on the development of the fetus. Murabi, you heard that God breathed through the nostrils to give life to the baby. Is this what Islam says?
You see, the creation of man is very much different in different scriptures. As you listen, some of them were Christians and some, we do not know their religious dominations and they were just speaking. So, but what the Quran tells us is about the creating man from clay, an extract of clay. What does that sound? What does it look like to you? Is it just the normal clay that God just made, like the toys we used to make in our schools when we were kids? Is that what we are thinking about God? No. You have to look at what the texture of clay is. How does it look like? Look at how God mentioned how the sperm of drop came, the clot of blood, and then from shapeless lump and all that. Mm-hmm. Clay can equally do these things because it is very easy to change the shape of a clay. So because of this nature of man, so if you are having a behavior and they are telling you to change and you are telling people that you cannot change, then you are out of the creation of the clay because you must be able to change to the situation so that you wouldn't be a disturbance in the society. You won't be a nuisance. You have to be someone that can always model yourself as a clay because that is what Allah has said you look like. Because if you cut someone here, blood comes out. If you cut clay, blood doesn't come out. So how does the clay get blood and get water, that when you lose water, they have to put drips onto you? When you lose blood, you need blood to be infused into you. So this is to tell us that it's not just talking about the ordinary clay that we see and we play with. It's just to tell us that our behavior and our texture that we are made up of is changeable to the circumstances, and we must be able to adopt to make sure that we bring better things to ourselves as well as the other creations that live around us. Okay,
that's interesting. We have always looked at it like when they say dust or clay, it is the dust we are inhaling, or the clay, the physical clay that we see. Dr. Saib, listening to the guest, one of them alluded to the fact that children are a blessing from God. So, implying that it's not every time that when a man and a woman meet, or when a sperm and an ovary meet, children are produced. Is this scientific?
Yes, it's very scientific. We know for sure that it's not every conjugal relationship that leads to pregnancy. It's a whole intricate process that it has to have the right environment for this fertilization to go on. If the right, let me put it like, ingredient is not there, there's no way this fusion, this combination of the sperm and the egg will occur. Or it can occur, but if the woman's womb is not right, the womb the fertilized egg getting stuck in the womb and growing to develop into a human being may not occur. Okay. So if all this thing, everything becomes right and a child is born, it's really a blessing. Like the person said, it's really a blessing because when you have to go into the process, you see that it's a very complicated process which has been laid down and which occur in some people seamlessly.
Okay, I believe...
To add up to what Dr. Saab is saying, it is indeed a great blessing. You see, we have farmers who have got their farmlands, everything is necessary. They have fertilizer, they have the best seeds, they have the best rainy season. Still, they complain that out of this season we didn't get good yield. Why? It's not by their might. This is to tell us that if God does not put his blessing on it, no matter how many kind of sperms that have been infused into you, you will not conceive. You won't, because it's a blessing. It is not the hard work of the man or the hard work of the woman that brings about the child. No, it is a blessing. And God gives to whomsoever he wishes and pleases. That's he said in the Holy Quran. He creates from whatever he likes, and he gives to whomsoever he pleases. There is no way you can take him to. That
is right. I believe we will look at the subject of children as a blessing from God in our subsequent episodes of Islam and Science, particularly Dr. mentioning that if all the conditions are right. So we need to find out what conditions can be wrong and what conditions can be right. And if indeed we have any insights from Islam with that regards in our subsequent program. Viewers, this is where we draw the curtains to a close on this subject. It has been interesting discussing the development of a fetus, how you and I came about from the Islamic perspective and from science. And we have found that, in fact, Islam 1,400 years ago predicted this process so explicitly that science have now come to confirm everything. Thank you for watching. With me in the studio have been Dr. Osman Kobina Ajapon of the Kolobu Teaching Hospital and Murabi Abdul Ghafur Said, a missionary of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Mission Ghana. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Jazakumullah. Viewers, this is the end of our program. We'll see you again on our next episode on Islam and Science. Keep watching MTA International. Assalamu alaikum.